Hello, everyone. Hello. So my name is Camille Dunn, and I'm going to be sharing with you testimony from sexually abused to rescue. So, my very first memory, my oldest memory of being taken advantage of, being sexually abused, was when I was about 4 or 5, maybe 3, 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And I remember being taken to a basement, and there was something on the screen, and the family member brought me between his legs and began to play with my private parts. And I was on my backside. I could feel his penis on my backside as he, continued to play with my private parts down there. And the last thing within that, happening, when he would finish, I guess, when he would finish, then, I would go back upstairs, or it'll be the end of that. When I was about, I know it was October 31st, 2001. So I think I was somewhere between 7 and 9 years old. The same family member did it again. This time, he straddled the back of me and tried to insert his penis into my anus. And from that, I told my mama the following year. There was much fear and anxiety. He said he was sorry, but he also told me that I would get in trouble. So there was fear and anxiety in me telling my mom. But I told her the following year while I was at church, and she got me checked out. I went into some counseling. The police began to look for him. I think they found him in 2005, one day when I was over my grandmother's house, and we were there just checking on grandma and things like that. And I saw him in the back, and I screamed out and said, he's here, and pointed and told my mom, and then he ran out the back. And sometime later that year or the following year, they found him. He went the whole court thing happened. He went to jail. And then when he got out and he continued to groom me and continued to sneak his way back into my life. And I'm ignorant, not knowing these things and things like that. He took advantage of that and things like that. And so we end up being together for a short period of time, where he continued his abuse and manipulation and control and things like that. And it was very abusive. At first it started off all nice, and him, doing the whole groom thing again. He's sweet, he's nice, and making me think that he's a friend, that he loves me, things like this. But then it switched later on in the abusive relationship. He tore me down verbally, emotionally, all of these things. And then he began to get physical, with raping me several times, over and over again, because I didn't want to have sex with him anymore. I stopped having sex with him because of the way he treated me. And so he raped me, and then he began to put his hands on me, pushing me, shoving me, dragging me, all type of stuff. And so that's kind of like, in a nutshell, how all of that happened. When I was also in school and things, I got bullied a lot, and I didn't see how much of what happened to me being sexually abused played a part in my identity and the lack thereof, or the lack of me seeing how lost and how broken I was. I was always clinging to be accepted or be accepted by people. I was always clinging to have a friend, and when I did, I always got rejected. Or when someone did accept me, or it seemed like somebody accepted me, they only wanted me for what they wanted me for. That's men and some of my women friends that I had, or people that I thought were my friends, when really they only loved some part of me because it gave them something, or gave them some value, or they saw themselves in light of having me in their life. And so it was kind of like I'm just going to have you around because I get this from people, or I get this feeling when I'm around you. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't genuine. A lot of my, the guys and stuff that I was interested in school, they weren't interested in me. Guys, when they would call themselves asking me out, it was really, they just wanted to get in my pants and, have sex with me. And when I would turn them down, they turned to calling me a dyke or say I didn't want you anyway, and just talking about me like a dog. And so a lot of that played a part on my mental and how I viewed myself, how I saw myself. And I was very insecure, very toxically insecure. Being sexually abused took my voice, took my identity, took my innocence, and much of my, I would say, promiscuity or having sex, because I started having sex at like 18 because I had this thought in my mind that no, mama taught me to, wait for marriage or whatever. But, I graduated, this is an accomplishment. I graduated from high school. And, I'm just going to do me. I'm just going to, do what other people do and have, I know myself. I'm going to do these things so that people know that I'm just like them. And I'm going to get what I want, from men. It was like this thought process. I'm trying to prove something to men or to myself that I'm worthy of love. And so I started having thoughts about, I'm going to have sex and all this type of things. And I started doing that. I was already masturbating and watching porn. I remember being like 9, 10, 11 years old, late at night. It was just an impulse. Like, it was something that I couldn't really control, but I was doing. And Lord, I just thank you. Oh man. I would get up, I would, wait for my parents and my family members to go to sleep. And I would get up like 11, 12 o'clock and go on the computer on, the computer was in our kitchen at the time. My mom slept up front, and then my dad slept in the back. And so I was in between, the kitchen was in between, both of my parents slept. And I would just go on to the porn site, and I would look up porn. Like, I didn't even know why I was like, what to look up, because I'm like 9, 10, 11 years old, doing this. And it was just crazy. Like, I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm like, wow. But stuff that I would look up and then I would watch and then, masturbate to it, but knowing what I know now, I know that was a spirit, because there's no way that I wanted to do those things, or I was a child, I didn't know what those things were. It's not like my mom had that lying around, my dad had that lying around. Like, the only time I was introduced to pornographic images was when that happened to me when I was 4, and I wasn't even conscious or, there as a 4-year-old, just the stuff that was happening to me just happening, and it ingrained into my, my psyche and things like that. And so that's how that came about, me just watching porn and doing all that stuff. That was something that entered me when I was 4 years old, and also entered me when I was being molested by this family member time and time again, doing this act to me. That's how perversion entered me, as well as in the bloodline itself. There was much sexual perversion of all kinds, but definitely sexual perversion, incest, rape, molestation, bestiality, all type of stuff running the bloodline on my, specifically on my mother's side. On my dad's side, I believe there's some there too, but what affected me most was on my mother's side. And so going forward, I had sex, I was having sex, I had a few thought process. Let me say this. I had this thought process that, because when I was in high school, younger guys my age didn't want me. And so I had this thought process that the older guys were, more secure, and they would love me, they respect me, things like that. Now, my dad, he was an older guy. He was like 9 years older than my mom. And my mom and dad were pretty old when they had me and my little brother, the last of my mom's kids, right? And so, So I had this thought process that, and my dad, he was in the house, but he wasn't, because of stuff that he went through, he was in the house and he was married to my mom because he felt like that's the right thing to do. You're with a woman, you get her pregnant, you marry her type of thing. So he was there. He did, work when he could. He had a prosthetic leg, so he couldn't do too much. And then after a while, he had to retire. His boss made him retire because he didn't want the liability, or he didn't want the liability, and he wanted to bring in some of his own family members to the job. And it was just easy to let my dad go. So my dad was there and stuff, but he never, because of the stuff that how he grew up and even his own issues, he didn't make me feel validated. He kind of like stayed to himself. The only time when I felt when my dad, came around and stuff was when we used to eat dinner, but that's when mama would have to tell him or ask him, like, Dad, David, come eat with us at the kitchen table. And then the only time I seen him out and about in the house sometimes was when, mama and him was arguing or things like that. My dad would take us out, when we was real young. My dad would take us to the park and things like that. And he used to take us to, while mom was working, he would take us to hockey practice and stuff like that. But as far as like having talks with me or showing me that attention that a father should to his daughter, to make sure his daughter knows that she's validated and that she's loved and that she's accepted, I never really got that from him. And once again, because I know now that he didn't know how to do that. My mom mostly did that with me. She always sat and talked to me and told me about how beautiful I am, how much she loves me. And this is something that she learned from taking a family course or something like that in the treatment center that she used to go to before she came and got me from grandma's house, because I was with grandma for about, I want to say, since I was like maybe about maybe 6 months or something like that, till I was about 4 or 5, something like that. I could have that wrong, but I know I was with grandma for a little bit, and then my mom got better and came and got me. And a lot of the stuff that she learned about how to be a mother and being, mindful of their children and loving on their children and stuff like that, she got from taking a family course, because her mother wasn't the nurturing type, really. She was more stern and a what's they call it, a administrator. She was more stern, and like, they grew up in a different time back then. So she had another mindset where, she just take care of the house, take care of her husband, children stay in the child's place, in the mindset of that, a child should be seen and not heard type of thing. And so mama learned those things. And so she validated me, or tried her best to validate me and love on me and let me know that she sees me and that she cares for me. But my dad really couldn't really do that, for me. And so back to, me having sex and stuff, when I was, I would make the choice to do that because I feel like that's what I needed to do to get guys to like me, to get men to love me, or to show me some attention, because I felt so invisible. I felt so rejected. And so I felt like there was something that I needed to do to make sure I get loved and things like this. And I grew up in church and heard about the love of Christ and love of God my whole life, but I know now that those factors of how I grew up, and my father being in the house but still absent, and the bullying and the molestation and the rape, those played a huge part on why there was such a disconnect for me to know, even though I'm hearing all this stuff in my ears, love from Jesus, my mama telling me she loved me every day, my dad a few times telling me he loved me, coming to admire me when I'm going out to a school dance or something, things like that. Like I was hearing it in my ears, but I couldn't. There's still a disconnect. It's almost like the love messages were static, and I could hear it, and it made me feel good in the moment. But what overtook me was really all the hate, all the rejection, all the fear, all the anxiety, all the what's the word? All the illness from how I was treated or how I felt about myself, And so So yeah, I just started having sex. I had some boyfriends. One of my boyfriends were, he lied to me and told me that he was, I was in high school. I want to say I was like 15 at the time, and he told me he was like 20 or something, and or 19. He showed me an ID that showed that too, and he did look fairly young. And then I find out that he's actually 30 years old. He's actually like 30 years old. So as I got older, it's like, I think we was together probably about a year or two. This whole time, this was an older man, much older than me, taking advantage of me. He told me all these nice things and things like that, and we were smoking and drinking together. And I'm thinking that I really got somebody that loves me. I'm thinking I really got somebody that cares for me. He even told me, "Oh yeah, girl, I'm gonna marry you," and all this type of stuff. And I believed that mess, because of the insecurity, and the desperate need to be loved. And so, and having a misconception of what love is, that too. That's another thing that sexual perversion does. It perverts what true love is, what genuine love is, and makes you think that the perverted form that you're used to, that's love, and it's not. I want to say for about maybe 2 years, I was in college, and if I saw a guy that I liked, or he gave me some attention or whatever, one night stands, type of stuff like that, I was still masturbating. I was still watching the porn, even in between of this stuff, and things like that. Every once in a while, not as much as I was when I was younger, but yeah, I was still definitely masturbating and things. I would talk to guys on chats and stuff like that, and hook up and things like that. Like, it was bad. But yeah, and then, I had some other boys. So yeah, I'm just trying to paint a picture of how being sexually abused has shaped a lot of my decisions, my mindset, the way I see myself, my identity, things like that. And so fast forward, the one who abused me get out of jail, and he comes and finds me and continues to do the same thing. He continues his grooming. At this point, I'm thinking I forgave him. He went to jail. People in jail must, come back. I was thinking, my mindset, my innocent mindset was thinking, or my groom mindset was thinking that, everybody that go to jail, they get out and they're better people. They just have to be, right? Like, they just have to be there. They went to jail, they learned their lesson. Like, they, what I'm saying? And then I think also a component of it was the fact that he was family and the grooming part, what I'm saying? So one thing that being sexually abused does as well is it destroys your defenses. So I had no defense when it came to him or any guy. Like, it was like, there was, like, the red flags would be there, but I would see them as pink. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody, I don't know if any of you heard the saying that don't turn red flags pink. Like, that's what that spirit, that sexual perversion spirit, being sexually abused, stole from me at that first instance when it happened to me. It destroyed my innocence, my defenses. It took my voice, all of these things. And so I'm just, thinking about it the way I'm thinking about it the whole time. The plan is to get back in my good graces and continue to, abuse me, continue to use me and manipulate me and basically own me. This predator in our family, he wanted to own me. The spirit that he's operating in wanted to own me and have me and control me and manipulate me and continue to abuse me for a long time. And for a while, about a year and some change, he did. For a year and some change, he did. And I remember certain events, coming together and adding up. And I just knowing now, I know that was God, like delivering me slowly but surely out of the situation, but and changing my mind and helping me to come out of it and waking me up, basically. But yeah, like the abuse that started happening at the end of the relationship. I mean, after I had ended the relationship, but we were still homeless together, so I had nowhere else to go. I left and went to a shelter, found out I was pregnant. I was just getting back just getting back on my feet, I was found out I was pregnant with, you know, his baby. And I was in the hospital, I was in the clinic, just so full of happiness. But then I went to crying, because I guess my mind went back to how abusive he was, and the fact that the reality was that I was never supposed to be with him, and I didn't want to be with him. I was so full of this fear of having some connection with him, because I had just felt like I finally broke free, you know, out of his grip. And so the thought crossed my mind to, you know, abort my son. Fast forward, the Lord divinely intervened while I was in the abortion clinic and stopped me from doing that. And I wasn't raised to do abortion and stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of sexual perversion that runs in my family, and I know of a few family members who were born out of incest. And so it's just this type of thing, like abortion wasn't talked about. We knew it was something that was bad because, you know, we was raised in church and stuff like that. But also in light of how much sexual perversion happened in the bloodline and how much offspring is a result of that, that was never talked about either. Like, there's predators in our bloodlines, and they just get swept on the rug, or we're told to not talk about them, or not to tell nobody about that. Just, you know, don't tell nobody your family business, just keep it. And that's one thing that steals the voice too, that steals a person's voice. So try to keep the victim silent, and letting the perpetrators or the predators go free to keep on, you know, abusing, keep on raping, keep on, you know, doing these things. And so so when I ended up in the what's it called, the domestic violence shelter, right? That was the first peace I've had in a long time. Like, I really felt what I know now was the peace of God. And that was just the beginning, but God divinely intervened. I wasn't getting an abortion, but my mom I finally surrendered to going back home and recognizing that, hey, I can't do this on my own. It's not a matter of just, you know, picking up your feet and going. Like, you have family that you could go back to, which was my mom and my dad's house. So I was finally submitted to God's instruction with that. And my mom came and got me. And I'm telling you, within a day, she had been praying for 3 years for me to come home. And that was the day that her prayer was answered. And I came back pregnant, broken, insecure, toxically insecure, and all that goes with it. But I was returning home, broken as I was. And I was there. While I was there, I was in my mom's house, I was able to breathe. I was able to be as broken as I was, and know that she saw me beyond my brokenness. And I was pregnant with my baby Isaac, and it was, from what I remember, it was just a smooth pregnancy. Like, that was my first time being pregnant, so it's like it was a lot of new things. Like, I ate a lot, which I wasn't supposed to eat every time I was hungry, but I ate a lot. But for the most part, like, it was a smooth pregnancy. And he was just a chill baby and stuff like that. And in that time, I had an encounter with Jesus Christ for the first time in my life. And he came in there and he sat next to me on the bed one morning. It was November 11th, 2017. I'll never forget it. That's when I had returned home. And in between that date, the 11th and the 15th, was when I had my encounter with the Lord. And he sat on the side of the bed with me, and he had his hand on my shoulder. And when that happened, I just felt so loved. I began to just cry and break down and just say, how did my life get here, Lord? Like, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like I want change, like make me whole or whatever. I was saying something in the line of that. And I remember he was just in an instant, it seemed like the Lord had just, in the blink of an eye, had just ran down my whole life up until this point. All the abuse, all the neglect, all the mental thoughts that I never told anybody, all the physical actions that I did, hanging out with this guy, having sex with that guy, all of these things like came back to me in the blinking of an eye. And it was like the Lord was telling me that he was with me through that all. And in that moment, it was just instantly, there was a heart change, and I no longer wanted to do the things that I want to do. My mind had completely switched to caring about or wanting some man or any of that. I just wanted God. And so he began to wake me up early in the morning, and we read the word together. Like I would have my Bible open, and I'll just hear so clearly, turn to this page, or I'll open up the Bible, he'll automatically bring my attention to a verse. And one of the first things I remember that God dealt with me in is flattery. I think it's in Proverbs 6 or 7 or somewhere around there, or 8. And he showed me this verse about flattery, and he began to speak to me and tell me that because this is why you fail, you opened your legs for every man that came your way because of flattery, because you wasn't validated or you didn't feel love. A man or a person would show that they cared for you or loved for you or all this stuff, and you're looking at what they're doing and even believing the words that they're saying. And so you're thinking that because they are telling you these things and showing you these things, that you must give of yourself the most precious thing that there is. And he just worked that thing in me, and so many other things, And so, yeah, that was basically how I got separated from the one who abused me. And I just think, so now we're in the part where I'm going to express how physically I was removed from the abuser, right? But mentally, heart, in my soul, there was still a soul tie, a connection to everything that he had, those actions he did, and everything, the experience of being with him, how it affected my soul was still there. Kind of like with God delivering the children of Israel out of Egypt. They were physically out of Egypt, but Egypt was still in them. And so for me, I was physically away from the abuser, but the abuser and the sexual perversion from that abuser was still in me. And so the Lord began, since I want to say a few months or even within a month, me and the Lord was just like, this was the most I read my Bible over all the time I was in church. Like, I would get up every day and I would spend time with the Lord, reading the Bible and just eating. I was like so thirsty. Like, I didn't realize I was so thirsty for God, or I was starving for him. And I would just eat. I'm telling you, hours would go by and I'm still reading the word from starting at 6 a.m. in the morning. And God began to give me things, give me the title or the book for, give me a word that he's going to have me to share my story or what he's delivered me from in a book. And that was the beginning of it. I just wrote down some things that he told me about, the abuse, and he was giving me revelations of how the enemy, took advantage of me through this person and how it affected me and all these type of things. And it was just like a short manuscript at the time. When my mom came along, she came alongside of me one day while I was writing it down, and I was telling her, like, Mom, yeah, like, God gave me this book and this and that. And she prophesied and she spoke. She said, this book is going to be a bestseller. This book is going to be a bestseller. This is a book from the Lord. And ever since then, I wrote it down in my prophetic journal to my spiritual father at the time. I had met him when I was down there at school in the midst of all this chaos with the abuser. But he had encouraged me to get a prophetic journal. And so I had that, and I wrote that. I was writing this book and all the stuff God was giving me in that, as well as what my mom said. And so time went by. God had been working on my heart to apologize to my sister whose husband is the one that abused me and took advantage of me. And for a long time, it baffled me that I had to apologize or anything like that, because I'm like, I didn't do anything. She been hated me before this even happened. And I was taken advantage of. Like, what do I have to apologize for? And so God took me to his word, Leviticus 18, where it says, I can't remember the exact verse. I can't remember the verse exactly, but it was saying that don't have sex with your sister. It was telling me, and don't have sex with two sisters or something like that, for it would put the sisters at rivalry or something like that. I'm going to put the verse up or find it. But God brought that to my mind. And it's like in an instant, the Holy Spirit brought to my attention how to look at it. Like, God is mindful and know that I was taken advantage of. Like, I didn't do this purposely to hurt my sister, but the act that the enemy used me and used me against her has put us at rivalry. So even though God knows the real reality of what happened, that I didn't do this on purpose, to her, or the enemy is trying to keep us at rivalry because he has put it in her mind a certain type of way to think of it this way. And so he was using me to address the matter and to apologize and to humble myself before him, but also just recognizing that, hey, though this was not done on purpose, it was still done. And I'm acknowledging the fact that I know that this hurt you in some type of way. And I'm saying I'm sorry, or I apologize. And so that happened. I was able to do that. And I'm telling you, it was God would not leave me alone until I did it. But I was just fighting the Lord, like, what I got to apologize for? Like, it wasn't my fault. Like, I was angry because I'm the one that got taken advantage of, but I'm the one that got to apologize for her. Even now, I pray for her a lot about that she just gives all that hurt and pain to the Lord, and comes to know him in true love and not through the lens of her trauma, like the Lord did for me. And so that was like the first part of that, God delivering me or cleansing me from this wicked root of sexual perversion, this wicked soul tie from this family member. And going forward, so some of what that looked like with the Lord cleansing me of some of these things is, my heart's desire was not to kick him out of our son's life, the biological son Isaac, out of his life, but I knew that he still wanted to. He still had that spirit in him. So I constantly prayed and asked God, like, how do I deal with this? How do I go about this? And so I believe for a time, God was leading me to, he can come and see his son and things like that. But I would have to be there. My mom would have to be there. Somebody would have to be there with him during the whole time he was with them. So that happened for a while. But then because this family member, the abuser wanted to have time with Isaac by himself and all of these things, me knowing that that spirit is still there and that he's, seeking to, abuse and take advantage and things like that, that wasn't happening. And so the abuser, this family member, began to tear me down with words every time I was on the phone, just bringing up horrible things and calling me out my name and just basically speaking word curses and things against me and a whole bunch of witchcraft, basically. And so one time I was praying and I was crying on the phone because I'm like, what is going on? Like, he doesn't understand. Like, I'm not going to be with him, but I'm not also going to allow him around our son. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, you're not going to be with our son by yourself. It's facts. And so God led me over some time, I had to cut him off. I had to cut him off and stop communication altogether. A few times I opened back up communication, but with restrictions where, only have a phone call with Isaac where you can see him and things like that. But me and you, we don't talk. Only has to do with Isaac, all that type of stuff. Fast forward, that eventually had to get cut off because the abuse continued, and he continued to try to do certain things and things like that. And so even speaking word curses and things on my son Isaac. And so the way God worked that out was that he totally closed that door from having any connection to him and with him. And in that, I was more set free from just that open line of communication. And then God began to do more, even deeper work with me, delivering me from the spirit of Asmodeus, which is the king of lust and sexual perversion and all that stuff that came with that was in my bloodline, as well as entered me and began tormenting me at a young age when I was sexually abused by this family member. And so that's how the Lord has done it last year, with delivering me in my mind and my heart, just helping me to know that I'm loved by God, I'm loved by him, and that he sees, that he was mindful, that he was there with me when these things happen, and that that he has a greater purpose for my life, for his glory, in spite of what I've gone through. I'm more confident. I'm more bold now. My voice is back. I'm speaking when the Lord tells me to speak. I have defenses. I have defenses now. I have boundaries. I'm more discerning of manipulation and control and narcissism and just spirits that operate that come from that. I'm not easily I'm not insecure as insecure as I was. My innocence has been restored. I went through deliverance, and God, restored my innocence and my purity back to me, because that's what was stolen from me in those times, during that time. And a lot God has just restored to me. And earlier last year, a situation came up, and the family member, the abuser, said they need to speak to me, and they had gone some time since we talked and stuff. So I felt, I prayed about it, and I talked to my husband about it, and I felt the Lord said it was okay to, have a phone call. So had a phone call, and on this phone call, he was talking to me and asking me about something to do with Isaac. And at the end of the phone call, the Lord told me to gave me some instructions to say something to him, to tell him that I forgive him again, because I had already told him that before, but this time it was a deeper, I didn't know what was going to happen, transpire from me being obedient to God at this point, because like I said, it was a process. He was working these things out of me. So the Lord instructed me to say, I forgive you again for doing what you did to me. I release you from the debt, from the abuse that you caused me. I recognize fully that it was not you spiritually who did this to me, but it was the enemy using you and taking advantage of you, to take advantage of me. And so I totally forgive you. And I wish you nothing but the best. The Lord instructed me to pray for him. I said, I wish you nothing but healing and deliverance from the Lord. I pray that you come to know the Lord yourself in relationship and things like this. And the Lord told me to pray for him, pray for him and his soul and things like that. And I did that, and I got off the phone. And the moment I got off the phone, I saw a vision of a door. And at the same time, as I'm seeing this vision, I heard what was happening in the vision. And in this vision, a door had closed. I was standing in front of the door, and a door closed. And I had a key in my hand. It was like I saw the key I didn't have, I had it, it was like in my hand, but it was also in the door, and the door, the key had locked. And the key again was like in my hand, and after it locked, I tossed it, and it went so far. It's kind of like when a balloon goes, when you release a balloon and it goes and it goes and it goes until you can't see it no more. That's kind of like how I threw that key in this vision. And I heard the door close and the door lock. And in the spirit, it was like God was telling me that this chapter, I have fully been, this chapter, this door and all the stuff that came through it has now been closed unto me and will never be opened again. And I have been totally delivered from all the things that has come from that. And so, yeah, like now, like I said, I'm more confident in the Lord. I'm walking daily in my identity as a daughter of God. I'm allowing his Holy Spirit to, I'm being obedient and allowing his Holy Spirit to use me to speak what he says, to walk in the callings and the giftings that he's called me to do. I'm discerning. I'm not trying to be connected to anybody and just everybody, because I know that I want to be in the perfect will of God, and that everybody and anybody is not for me. I'm more aware of the enemy's tactics and spirits that operate in people to try to come and cause fear, cause anxiety, try to come back and try to, get me bound again to those areas in my mindset that I used to be. But the Lord has delivered me from that and created in me a clean heart and a renewed mind. He's given me the mind of Christ, where I'm now able to see these things that I had gone through, these things that I was once bound to, and now can overcome them with the power and the blood of Jesus Christ and the power of my testimony, which is why I'm speaking now. I'm no longer embarrassed to speak about these things. I speak about these things with boldness, because I know I'm not the only one, and that I wasn't the only one, and that I'm not the only one that has this testimony. And I know it's nobody but the glory of God. It's nobody but the Spirit of God for his glory that has risen me up and saved me from so much, delivered me so much, so that others can be set free by the word of my testimony, so that others can know that there was no deep, dark, shameful place that you have been in, and that the enemy has done against you, that you can't be rescued from, that you can't be restored from, you can't be healed from. My heart is more whole. I love myself. That's another thing that sexual abuse took away from me. Loving myself. I hated myself, and I didn't even know why. I was just so toxically insecure. I would beat people at the chance of tearing me down, and trying to say it in the form of a joke, but these things I really believed. I believed I was nothing. I believed I was ugly, the ugly duckling. But now I know that I am beautiful. I know that I am deserving of genuine love. I know that I am worthy in God's eyesight. I know that the Lord looked upon me while I was still in my sin, while the enemy had me bound, and said, I'm going to die for her, because I see her free. I see her whole in me. I know that she's supposed to be whole in me, and he died for me. And so I pray that this testimony has blessed you. I pray that it's blessed everyone that is supposed to see this, that's going to see it. And I just thank God for this opportunity to share this. And you guys have a good one. Bye.